Okay, I'm calling to order the TAC meeting of November 15th, 2016. Lisa, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. David?
Present.
Mr. Jessup?
Present.
Mr. LaSalle?
Present.
Mr. McEnroth?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Mahoney?
Here.
Okay, approval of the minutes of October 18th, 2016. Just a minute, I need to remind everybody that a couple of them came in late that they've adjusted the microphones lower, so when you're speaking you have to speak directly into your microphone. There are several reasons for it, but we don't really need to know, I guess.
Thank you.
Like the rock stars do, they just swallow the mic.
Yeah. Okay, back to approval of the minutes of October 18th, 2016. Does anybody have any corrections, additions? Okay, I'll take a move to approve.
I'll move to approve as noted.
Second.
Yes, moved and seconded to approve the minutes of October 18th, 2016. Everybody in agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. Agenda analysis. Does anybody have anything that they want to add to or change on our agenda? And I'll note right up front that voting is not on the agenda this evening. However, the bylaws do state that we will have a vote tonight for the chair and vice chair. Excuse me. And that will be at the same time as we do 5A. Does anybody else have anything? Okay, we'll move on to item 4, citizen comments. I don't see any citizens this evening. So we'll move on to item 5, new business discussion items, the TAC vacancies and interview process discussion. John, did you want to talk about that? Or?
I can a little bit, but I think Lisa's got this one most
okay.
under her wing.
Do you want to start with the voting first and get that out of the way, and then?
Well, that'd be
move into-
fine. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. That should be quick.
We have one nomination for chair, which is me, and one nomination for vice chair, which is Henry. Does anybody have any other nominations from the floor?
I move that the nominations be closed. Is that appropriate?
I'll second that.
Okay. I think we'll just do a voice vote here. Voting for the chair, Bob LaSalle. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passed.
Okay.
2 more years.
That'll teach you.
All right.
But I will definitely ask someone to step in at the end of the next 2 years. Okay, for vice chair, Henry McEnroth. Anybody want to?
So move.
I'll second. Everybody in favor of Henry for vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's it. Okay, the TAC vacancies.
You look a little giddy, Henry.
Well, I voted for myself.
right, right on the edge there, weren't you? It's a tough campaign.
Right. Ooh.
Okay, TAC vacancies. Lisa, you want?
Okay, so we'll have 3 vacancies. Your term expires the 31st of December, as well as Setamir's. And then we have 1 true vacancy because Steve resigned over the summer. We had 5 applications come in. At the time that I posted the agenda, we had 4, and we've received a 5th. And the city recorder's office would like to know if we should accept it because it is late. And in the past, we have accepted late applications, but it's up to you to determine if you want to accept the 5th application.
How late was it?
I believe it was just received the other day because she just emailed us this morning, and she's pretty good with turnaround right away. So my guess is probably sometime yesterday,
And when were they due?
the 25th of October. And I believe we have accepted them about this late before.
Have we?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, I don't know. I personally kind of hesitate to accept them late because we all have our deadlines, and there are repercussions usually if you don't make the deadlines. But that's my personal opinion. I'll leave it to the rest of the committee to decide that.
So as I understand it, yeah, we've basically got three, if we accept the late one, there's 3 applications for 1 position. And,
2 applications for 1 position, because we had 4 applications, one being Bob and the other being Sedemir. So we have 2 other applications for the 1 true vacancy. And
doesn't the late one,
If he doesn't want to accept if you guys vote not to accept it, then we only have 2.
right, but right now, until you make a decision, there's 3.
Should we vote on it or just consensus?
What was it?
For a little bit of discussion, I'm going to ask if there's any real difference between an application coming in at the deadline and us not getting it till today, or one coming in yesterday and still not getting it till today. You know, is there any real difference in the vitality of and the goodness of the application?
Well, the outcome wouldn't be,
The outcome would be the same.
yeah.
Well, I tend to agree with Bob. I think that we should pretty well stick to I don't think it'd be fair to the other applicants that we receive a late application. It might be a little harsh, but considering the other applicants.
And I would tend to say if past practices had said that we would accept them, that we would be deviating from past historic practices. And as Henry said, it's no skin off our nose one way or the other. And if interviewing 3 candidates, and I don't want to know who was late, we get the best candidate for the position. And I think 3 gives us a better chance of getting a better representation for this committee.
Okay, so where do we go?
So we have never shared with any of the TAC members who was late.
No. We have done no review or no determination, nothing up to this point. So it wouldn't make a difference like you asked.
Then I will move that we accept all 3 applications in order to have a vote one way or the other, so.
Second that.
Okay, everybody in favor of accepting the latest nomination, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Vote
Aye.
opposed.
Opposed?
So was that 2
That's 3 to 2, isn't it?
3 opposed, I think.
and 4?
Yeah.
4 to 3?
That was a little rough.
4 to 3.
Wait,
Who's for maintaining all 3 candidates in your interview process? Raise your hand.
Okay.
Okay, so that's it.
4
We'll
to 3.
accept the 3rd nomination.
Okay.
Finally came up with a split vote on this group.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's the first one in 2016, I think. So that's good.
We just ran a
Can we learn the names of the applicants?
Yeah, I think so. We have information that we don't want really to leave the room,
Correct.
but we have the applicant information for you, and you can mull it over a little bit. I think really tonight, what's important is to kind of buy in on the process. And did you bring questions that we had from last time, or
Nope.
no?
I
No.
have
So
direct questions.
we can resurrect the questions that we used last time. In fact, I thought you and Bob did. Did you? Have you looked at the questions this year?
No, we reviewed them
No.
last year and made adjustments to them.
Okay.
And that's usually what we do between now and the December meeting
Okay.
by email. But
When is the December meeting?
the 20th,
I'll be out.
Okay. Anybody else planning to leave town? Okay.
I don't know
Now,
yet.
I have a question of procedure. Since Sedemir and I will both be applicants, we obviously wouldn't be able to vote for our positions.
right?
What about the other positions in the interview process?
Well, I think I haven't reviewed the bylaws on this, but I was wondering if this committee couldn't make a decision on your two positions and make that recommendation so that really the interview is, it seems weird to me to go through an interview process with, especially with you, Bob. You've now been elected chair for another 2 years, so it seems weird to go through that one. And so I don't know. I wonder if you know, is there any prohibition from having a conversation about it and making that recommendation? I know the mayor makes the appointment, but I think.
I think that if we could do that tonight, for that matter, is have, you know, if there's anybody opposed to either Sedemir or I being on the committee, then that's fine.
I would like to make a motion that we accept your nominations on the contingency that it doesn't violate the bylaws.
Okay.
And that if it doesn't violate the bylaws, that we make the recommendation to the mayor and that he hopefully would approve your being on the committee prior to the next meeting.
We're looking at some procedures from the city recorder. Interviews are conducted in public meeting of the board committee following current public meeting records, laws. Present at the interview are the applicant, the mayor, all members of the board and committee, or a quorum, and the department director. Interviews are not required to be video recorded. Public, including other applicants, are permitted in the interviews. It's appropriate. Ask the other interviewees to wait outside. So I wanted to look at the bylaws a little bit, see if there's anything in here that suggests anything different, but I'm wondering if we couldn't make the motion as a recommendation and, you know, I guess let the mayor makes the appointment decisions anyway, so, you know.
I think, Jonathan.
I just made a motion,
You made a
guys were-
okay.
got
but it was
guessed it.
contingent on it, and I'm hoping that the mayor would approve it prior to the next meeting. And the contingency was that it did not violate our bylaw.
Okay, that's great.
I will second.
I have a question on that. If the mayor would appoint you in advance, would say, does that mean you wouldn't go through the interview process? Like, I think the existing members still go through the interview process.
I think it might be, we want to be careful that we don't put the mayor in a really untenable situation here.
And I think too that if the applicants know that there's technically three vacancies on the board, but even before the interview, you already selected two of them, that doesn't seem fair.
Well, I don't have a problem going through the interview process at all. What I would like to see happen, if this is possible, doable, is that Sedemir and I have our interviews first and a vote taken. I don't know. It's a tough one. But I think we both like to take part in the interview process for the other applicants, but
At the end of the day, your committees are recommending to the mayor who's on the TAC, and the mayor ultimately makes a decision.
However, I don't think the mayor has ever gone against or denied the recommendation of the board.
But I think the process is everything, and I think that Bob's right. If we include him in the interview process, just like anything else, and forget about the fact that we just appointed him or voted him in as chairman, I think that's simple, straightforward, and it doesn't have
Yeah.
any complications for the mayor. I don't want to put him in a situation where he's caught between a rock and a hard place here because of process.
And I echo what you're saying, but then that has the caveat of maybe we should back up and wait on Bob's appointment for chair, because that makes the process not seem as clean as it should be.
Well, does the mayor appoint him as chair?
Well,
Because-
no, what I'm saying is, I agree with what you're saying is, but how can he be chair if he hasn't been elected to be,
Yeah.
to be on the
Reappointed.
board, reappointed? He can't, that muddies and clouds the process.
But he is the chair for the December meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we just voted to make him chair beyond
Jan-
that.
from Jan-
And that's
from
what I'm
January
saying
on.
clouds the process. I don't know if, does that make sense?
Well, and I've been sitting here thinking, you know, everybody is very accommodating here, but if we actually had, say, a split on the Transportation Advisory Committee, and you didn't go through the interview process with new candidates plus the candidates that want reappointment, then it really looks like a fishy process.
Yeah.
And I think most processes are put in place so they can be nice and clean and not be criticized for process and get it thrown out because of a process issue.
So I'm leaning in the direction where you're going. I'm a little worried. Sedemir is not going to be there that day. So Bob's pretty easy to work with. We can, not work with. Pretty easy to deal with because you're going to be here, and it's just going through the interview process and making the determination. But Sedemir is not. So we would have to do something kind of absentee, which would be kind of weird.
Or
Hey,
adjust the date.
Well, can we do
Just the date.
can we do a conference call interview? I don't know what your availability will be.
I'm
but-
in Australia, that's the problem. We're going on a
Uh,
wedding vacation.
Why don't you just put that off until after?
He's got a wife to deal with.
A question, what's our quorum? Number?
51%.
Yeah, but what will it be for that meeting?
Well,
So we're 8 members.
Yeah, we have 8 members, and I know that Bob said that he wanted to be in on the other interviews. However, I just reviewed the minutes for the last 2 years of interviews, and each time we had someone reapply, they recused themselves entirely from the whole process, which would then mean Sedemir and Bob would not be in the process at all. So that would bring us down to 6.
When you really think about it, I could, if I was in the interview process with the other 3, I could probably put forth some undue influence. There's always a possibility of that.
Yeah, I think having the candidates interview to be reappointed, while it seems unnecessary, I think it's necessary for the process to be straightforward. And so,
Yeah.
If we deviate from it, we're setting a precedent.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just need to make sure the rest of us, if we're missing 2 people, the rest of us are there. And maybe we could, at this point,
But we
agree to just get a written presentation from Sedemir in lieu of being there in person, or we can wait a meeting.
Actually, we're gonna be missing 3 people if we take the 2 reappointees and say they're not gonna be there, and he's not gonna be there because he's in Australia.
I thought he was one of the reappointees.
He's one of the
reappointees.
reappointed.
Oh, he's going, I'm lost then. Then it makes it better.
Can't we have a special meeting?
We could.
Well,
In
Sedemir,
Australia.
what
This is a special meeting.
When do you
December
leave?
is a special
I'm
meeting.
leaving on the 14th and coming back on the 3rd.
So we could have a special meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would suggest. We've done that before. Especially
I have a neighborhood meeting on the 6th,
What time's that start, Bob?
7. And it's a very important one. I can't miss it.
That's it. Annex
I'm-
six.
Some land use issues.
I'm just brainstorming here, and I'm trying to thinking of how to keep the process as clean as possible, without trying to deviate too much. Would it be feasible if we could get the questions and we submitted to you in writing and you responded, and we would have those answers, and those could be submitted the day of the meeting, which is what we have set out? I think that might make it cleaner. I don't know, instead of having a special meeting, because that might look, we're doing the special meeting for you. I don't know, I'm just brainstorming here, so forgive me.
Well, the December meeting is a special meeting anyway,
Yes,
because
yeah.
we don't normally meet.
Right, so it tends
Okay.
to be optional in the first place, so it wouldn't really be a special meeting just to suit his
So it's
needs.
a regular meeting that didn't normally get canceled for the holiday.
It was normally canceled for the holiday, and we've done it on a different day before.
Oh,
So,
so we could just move the date.
move the date.
If it's a special meeting, then I
So
don't know.
I think we'll have to figure out dates because room availability is one other little
Right.
dilemma that we don't know. So how about we? Yeah. So what's interesting is I don't see a lot in our bylaws about this kind of conversation because it really defers to the fact that the mayor appoints each member to the TAC. But I get the process piece. So
And the interviews are not recorded anyways, right?
And we're having this conversation because we just appointed Bob, the chairman?
no,
No.
I think we're having the conversation because we've got their terms are up, and I guess the question is should they go through the interview process to be selected? And I think the answer to that is yes. Now we're trying to figure out how to make that happen with.
Well, if
With
we
Summer
didn't,
leaving.
if we didn't have the interview process, what would the implications of that be? We've got to have an interview process.
Yeah,
Because we've got people that have applied,
right.
okay? So it applies to whether or not you're on the committee or not,
Correct.
okay? So we're gonna have an interview process.
Correct.
All right, him being chairman's got nothing to do with it,
Correct.
all right? So we wanna keep it clean, right? All
Yes.
right, so let's proceed.
Well, I think him being nominated chairman
Oh,
defeats the purpose of him interviewing if he's already been appointed chairman.
It seemed like the,
Well, he's still gonna face an expiration of his
Yeah.
chairmanship, whether or not we appoint him tonight or no.
it seemed like
I think last meeting, didn't you say it was dependent on whether or not you were on the committee again, as, when the mayor accepts the nominations for TAC members? So we had actually specifically stated that it was dependent on you being reappointed.
Oh, yes. Mhm.
But you could put that for both the chair and the vice
Yes,
chair.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah, I
was
think that
discussed.
language would solve the cart before the horse problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how the bylaws address how we deal with our chair and vice chair
Maybe
positions.
we ought to look at those
We
bylaws.
do that in November, and yet we're trying to. So I guess for me, there's two questions. First of all, could we do it and meet Robert's Rules of Order by asking Sedemir to write his responses in? That's one option, and you would interview on and do that on our regular meeting date. If that doesn't work, then reschedule the meeting for a day before Sedemir leaves, probably several days, so that you're not. Because I know what it's like to get ready for vacation. You don't want to be dealing with something like that. So find out if we can do it sometime earlier in December or sometime between now and
Right.
the
I'd say
second week.
try to schedule it earlier before he
Yeah.
leaves.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I mean-
those are the two options I think.
And I would like to throw out a third option, and excuse me, Bob, I think you're a great chairman, and I want you to be chairman in the future, but wouldn't it be cleaner if we redid the vote for you after you were, and,
We have to wait for the mayor to
But
say
but we
yes.
still have to go through the interview process.
yeah, we still, I'm saying, wouldn't it be cleaner if we did the nominations after we have a complete board that's been approved by the mayor?
Well, I think
Unfortunate-
that you would have to then start looking at a change in the bylaws.
Yes, yeah, because it's stated in the bylaws that you nominate in October and you
Oh.
vote in November. So to follow along with the
There's
bylaws.
a problem with the bylaws.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, we've created a little problem that we didn't want to as we went along, in that the chair and vice chair previous to my term were 1-year terms. And then we changed it to 2 years. And this is also coming into the
Yeah.
whole mix of things. So I think the cleanest way, well, number one, I think first you have to find out when this room is available. And then also be sure that the other applicants can make that date. They haven't been notified of the December 20th yet, have they?
No.
Oh, okay, so that wouldn't have been, anyway, make sure that happens, and then I say just do the interviews. And
Yeah.
get it done cleanly and it's over with
I mean, if we could do it within 2 weeks from now, as long as the candidates have 2 weeks' notice,
There you go. Yeah.
and we get it done as quickly as possible. And then also, this is a side note, I would like in a future meeting to get the bylaws fixed.
And I think that once we get a full membership here, then we elect a new chair.
Yeah.
Keep it clean, like, who's he do down there?
Okay, so I guess then you're gonna find out
The other-
next available.
Rather than changing, yeah.
Well, I can
So-
tell you what the availability is based on our calendar.
Oh,
So
good.
2 weeks out, it looks like Tuesday the 28th, the commission chambers are available, as well as Thursday the 1st of December. And then,
Wait a minute. Tuesday the 28th is not. 29th is.
Tuesday's the 29th.
That's awful close to the Thanksgiving
it is.
time.
Oh, you're right.
and-
Tuesday the 29th, I apologize. And then Thursday the 1st.
Thanksgiving is week before.
And then,
Yeah,
yeah, it is. It's close to the holiday.
the week
But that's
after.
2 weeks out, like you were suggesting. So if
People
we want to
will-
go further out,
People be traveling?
it might be.
When is Thanksgiving?
How about 3 weeks?
It's on
So
Tuesday,
December 1st, though, is an option.
yes,
That's
December
not really.
1st. Looks
That's
like
a week
it's an
away from
option.
Thanksgiving. So
I don't see any meetings in here that evening. And then Tuesday, the 5th, and Thursday, the 7th.
it's Tuesday is the 6th.
Tuesday
I-
the
I
6th.
have-
Calendar, no, just a second, this
I
calendar.
can't be here on the 6th because I've got that.
Oh yeah, that other.
That
one.
is,
What,
it
on the
is
5th or the 6th?
the 5th and the
6th.
7th.
You can't be here on the 6th.
Can you be here the 5th?
Monday the 5th.
No, that should be, let's see, this, maybe this calendar's,
Yeah, I think that
reads
calendar's
weird.
messed up.
Tuesday.
CIC has a meeting here on the
You're right,
5th.
this calendar is weird.
Tuesdays are 22nd, 29th, and
First.
6th.
Tuesday the.
I won't be on.
You're
on
right.
the 7th.
Tuesday is the 6th, so it'd be the 8th. We could use this room.
Thursday the 8th?
Mm-hmm. If he because he's unavailable
Will
on
that
the
work
6th.
for you?
Yeah, works for me.
So the 1st or the
And-
8th.
And that gives the other candidates
Plenty of time.
plenty of time, because I am concerned about not giving them ample time to make
Yeah, right.
time available.
The chair's term expires at the end of the year,
December 31st.
December 31st.
Mm-hmm.
So he will still be chair
Mm-hmm.
during the course of the interviews. We shouldn't muddy the waters at all. He's still a member of the commission, of the
But
committee.
I won't be involved in the interview.
Correct.
No, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
That works.
I want to commend you guys on this conversation. I sit on the planning commission. If we had this conversation on the planning commission, it's World War III. Okay?
And it lasted about 45
Undeclared.
minutes.
Undeclared World War III.
Okay, so we got that figured out, I think. I hope. Well, we have good staff backing us
So
up over here.
I do have one question, and I apologize for belaboring this point. Should we redo the vote for the chair after the mayor has appointed everybody to the new committee?
I don't think that's necessary because we'll have the interviews before the
Because
end of the year.
his appointment doesn't start until after.
I'm just saying is he's being appointed to a position that he hasn't been accepted yet, which
He hasn't
clouds the
been
water.
reappointed, yeah.
And being
This is
reappointed, that
happening
muddies the water in my mind.
Not that I remember.
That makes the process seem unfair to
No,
the
it
other
doesn't have
candidates.
anything to do
Well, you
with
could
two.
say that you
I
were
don't think so.
select him as chairman conditioned on him being reappointed to.
Why is it so hard just to do another vote? I want Bob.
Yeah,
I just
but
don't want to
his-
create problems for the mayor.
But his membership lasts until the 31st.
Yeah, but you're appointing him for a position that he doesn't currently have.
He
So the
doesn't
dilemma
currently
is
have-
if he
No.
doesn't get a position, if he doesn't get appointed, that's
Yeah.
the dilemma, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Then we'd have to re-elect a chair.
Well, if we put the word contingent in his reappointment in there, I mean, it looks like we're kind of biased, but,
I don't want to be biased is the point.
yeah.
Well, but
To
that-
any public to anybody, to the other candidates. I'm trying to be as open as possible, and when they're saying he's already been appointed to the chair at this meeting, in their minds, I could see that getting the mayor in trouble.
All they'd have to do is watch the video of tonight's meeting and the biases there.
I don't see the dilemma.
True.
He was nominated pending re-election to the committee also.
Okay. Maybe I'm making a
I think
bigger
we have to
issue than
fix-
it is.
Definitely have to fix bylaws. I mean, this is
Yeah.
Yeah.
causing
And I don't think
confusion.
changing it to a 2-year term is the reason for that. This could have happened in the past when someone was reappointed and they were chair for a 1-year term and reelected and
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
so.
There is there's some consistency. I don't know what the other bylaws for the other committees, but we typically advertise for vacancies and they close at the same time. Some stay open longer when they don't have applicants, but I think generally they close the same time. So I'm guessing all the bylaws have the same deal. The only time it's a problem is when when you vote someone whose term is expiring to be your officer for the next year, that becomes a problem. And so, I'm not sure that, for instance, when we nominate is the problem. It's more like, can we nominate someone whose term is expiring? And I'm wondering if Robert's Rules of Order have some specifics on that particular scenario. I don't know, but we can get some help from our city recorder. I think I've noted the problem, and at this point, it sounds like we're going to shoot for another date
Yes.
that Sedemere can attend, and go from there. And then you guys are both out on the interviews. You don't get to participate in the interviewing. You're an interviewee.
I got one other question. Talk about belaboring this. His chairmanship expires at the end of the year, or am I wrong?
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
It
so
does.
if it expires at the end of the year, why did we make a motion to reappoint the chair tonight? He's the chair until the end of the year. Is that right?
But that's what the bylaws state.
The bylaws state.
For the
bylaws
next
have to
term.
be fixed.
Yeah.
Bylaws have to be fixed.
Yeah.
Okay, so the problem isn't in our intent.
No,
The problem lies in the bylaws.
correct,
And we've discussed it in good faith.
right.
Okay, and I don't think we've got anything to apologize for. Or, I think we've approached it head on, and we want to keep the process clean and keep the mayor in a position where he's not wrestling with a faux pas, And so I'm comfortable with the special meeting and Bob recusing himself, and we just proceed on. And he continues to be the chair until the end of if he gets reappointed. If
Yeah.
he gets reappointed.
Yeah.
Big if.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I believe we had a discussion a couple of months ago on the bylaws, and this issue was brought up, and the committee decided they wanted it to stay the same way. So it was discussed only a couple of months ago.
We now know how it feels.
We know the intended consequences.
Yeah.
The consequences were brought up too.
Thinking about it and actually making it work are sometimes two different things.
Well,
So I think that, we'll have to
no more comment.
maybe put
from me.
together an ad hoc committee sometime early next year
And this
to go through the bylaws.
the special date. We'll need basically all of you guys here. I'll check in with Tom, but for a quorum, because there will only be 6 of you, we need 5 of you
Yeah.
to make the quorum. So as far as dates, it looks like the 1st and the 8th are available. I'll have to check, but the calendar shows that they're available. Can you guys all make the 1st and the 8th?
The first is worse than the 8th.
Preferably-
Either way, I've got to bounce out of another meeting, which I can do, but I'd rather have it be the 8th than the
And I
1st.
would concur the 8th would be better, and it would also be better for the candidates.
Yes, right.
So I'm going to look at the 8th then for
Yes.
May. Okay.
So, you get to manage this group all by yourself on me, just saying. And I think you'll do just fine with that. Because I won't be here, and Martin won't be here either.
You
But
won't,
I'd
okay.
also like to ask that the candidates get notified of that date as quickly as possible.
Yes. Uh-huh.
If the
Yeah.
room's available.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. I think we've got that one figured out.
Beat that thing to death, didn't we?
Item 5B, Public Works Report.
Am I at things on that screen?
Yes, they're on the screen.
Move.
Yeah, go ahead and move those. Projector.
You talked to
I said a couple, it was easier for me to put them in PowerPoint presentation than to try to do it alone. So, why is that one? There we go. So just an update on a variety of things that are going on. So we're already getting a start on our 2017 pavement maintenance project list, and they're shown in the map, and we've listed them as well in terms of the kind of work. So we've tomorrow night we're supposed to get the commission's decision to go ahead and move forward with the consultant. We're going to continue to use Wallace on this next year's list of projects. We've been on about a 3-year rotation. So we had Murray Smith do this through 2 years ago. So we're going to go one more year under Wallace and then switch over, probably go back to Murray Smith and give them a shot at it. We've included a list of the kinds of work that we're planning to do. There's more detail there than you need to know. I think the main thing is just we've got 15th Street, which is where all the water line work is occurring currently. Mm-hmm. So if you've been in that neighborhood, you've noticed a lot of work there. We're going to try and get most of that repaved. Van Buren, right, if you attend high school football games in the stadium there, that's a narrow little street that's pretty rough shape. So we would be repaving that for several blocks of that. The main street, right now we're in discussions with ODOT and Union Pacific on removal of the rail spur that runs from the mill site to 6th Street. So there's a rail spur that Blue Heron used to use for paper, and there's no real need for that rail spur anymore, and we've had some failures there. And so Union Pacific, ODOT, and the city are all motivated to do that, and we're talking about a joint project. So we're tentatively planning to incorporate it into our this pavement project list. High Street, we want to do as much of High Street as we can. Right now we've got the whole thing shown. I'm not sure we can accomplish all that, but we're wanting to get as much of that done as possible. Jersey is a street up in the Rivercrest neighborhood, and we did a bunch of water line work up there a year or two ago, so we're wanting to repave that. Brighton, we've done a lot of paving up in that neighborhood. That'll kind of finish out a lot of the streets in that neighborhood, and then Warner Milne between Lynn Avenue and Beaver Creek Road. So just wanted to share that with you. I guess any questions on that before I move on to the next topic?
I have a question on Warner Milne. You're starting 300 feet east of the intersection of Lynn Avenue. Is that because of the roundabout? You don't want to rip up the new pavement?
Trying to remember why we're doing that.
That's
Gary.
about where the intersection widening ends for the Mount Pleasant intersection.
It seems early to be worried about the roundabout since we don't have a design. So I am not recalling, it may have been trying to protect the loops there, but then that doesn't explain why we're going all the way to Beaver Creek. So I don't have a good answer, Gary. Can I get back to you on that?
Sure.
I have one question that I know isn't too terribly germane, but is the Lynn Avenue sewer system going to be done in time to do any rebuilding work on Lynn Avenue, or should that wait another year?
So I'm going to talk about the Lynn Avenue project, and maybe I can address
Answer
it
that.
in more detail. I would say right now, though, in case I forget, because it's not a part of the presentation, right now we're working diligently just to get that thing open again, and it's been a struggle. So we've evaluated the fact that we've got some problems with the pavement, but we're wondering if we couldn't button that up for a year or two so that we could include it in a bid package when we've got, right now we're programmed for all these, which pretty much spends out our pavement maintenance dollars, and get some life out of call it temporary, but a kind of permanent temporary patch. And then there's also the Lynn Avenue corridor study, which had some improvements. So right now, my feeling is it'd be nice to figure out if there's any part of that Lynn Avenue study that we could accomplish and at the same time do the pavement work. So our intent is to temporarily patch it, and we're working with the contractor on a change order to figure out how to, get the right pricing for that kind of work versus what we had originally intended to do there.
What is the maintenance budget, pavement maintenance budget?
It's I think right now we're collecting through the pavement maintenance utility fee around $1.9 million, and my recollect is this comes close just under $1.5 million.
Based on this year prices plus some inflation?
Yeah, I think they've been looking at past historical prices, including this year's, and rough quantities. What we often find is we start with a longer list, and then as we kind of further refine the actual fixes, there's a lot of ADA ramps on this one too, so
Those eat up a lot of money.
they eat up a lot of money, and we were really hoping for the gas tax measure because that might have helped refill the pavement maintenance budget by using some of those gas taxes to help fund the ADA ramps, but didn't get that. So we're still obligated to take care of those ADA ramps wherever we're doing paving projects. So it's a big cost, and I guess back to your question, we start with a beginning number and we start narrowing that down. Sometimes we have to kick another project a year out.
I've got a
Just so
question.
you know, because you obviously will be presenting this to others, is that the red line on Warner Milne Road does not go over clear to Beaver Creek Road.
Yeah, it does. That's the Beaver Creek extension.
Beaver Creek was here.
No. Beaver Creek, it meets down here off the page and it whips around here and comes up that way.
Okay, yeah, right, yeah, okay. It turns into Malala.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're okay. But then I also had a question about what is CTB and AC?
CTB stands for Cement Treated Base. So we did a lot of that on 9th, and we did some of it on Jackson in front of the pool, where you basically take let's call it a tilling machine on steroids that basically takes the existing soil, they mix in cement with it, sometimes water, depending on the process, and they till that all in rather than coring it out and putting in compacted gravel. It's just another way to strengthen your foundation, and it's pretty effective. It's got some complexities to it, but we've used it quite a bit.
We the county did that for us on Swan Avenue about 10, 12, 15 years ago.
I have a
Swan
question.
seems to be holding up pretty well.
Yeah.
And the AC?
And that was clay cement, basically, that they worked with.
So normally with your pavement maintenance project, you have the rehabbing of the whole surface, which most of these projects look to be, and then you have slurry seal and chip seal, are they coming up in a subsequent one of these, or?
We don't have that list yet of those streets. At
So you're
least
re-
I've been prepared to bring them. Matt Pullison may already have that in progress, but they would be in addition to these.
Right, and so that's probably why you didn't use the full 1.9 million, you let,
Oh, right.
okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to understand that.
And I guess the other thing is that 1.5 that I mentioned, Sedimere, was that includes engineering.
Have you guys looked? I mean, I have seen somewhere where they go in and they're milling, they're grinding, and then they're recycling, adding new asphalt, and then paving it back. Have you looked into that?
I would say yes. The last time I was aware of it, so there may be new information that Matt is more familiar with, but there's nobody really locally that's doing that kind of work. There is some progress on that kind of recycling that's happening in other parts of the country, but it's yet to kind of hit mainstream. It's definitely not in Oregon yet. Okay, with that, I'll keep going. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Malala Avenue completion project. This is our grant application. I think we've talked about this before. We're really proposing that it's an $8 million project. It's Malala Avenue from Beaver Creek Road to Highway 213. Most of the improvements are in places where there's gaps in existing sidewalks, driveways that are expansive that need to maybe be narrowed up with some access management that kind of controls where you get those accesses. A lot of asphalt work, 2 new signals, up to 3 pedestrian activated kind of crossings where you walk up, hit the button, and can get a flasher, kind of like what we have up here at the library. ADA accessible sidewalks, 10-foot wide sidewalks on the west side or the residential side of that street versus the Fred Meyer side. So we've had to kind of scale that back. It'd be a federally funded project. It's pretty expensive project, and we're asking for just under $4 million, and we would match it with $4 million. So that's generally what that looks like. This is a map we used that tells a story about why that project is justified for getting funding versus some of the competition in the rest of the region. These are Metro regional flexible funds, and there's $25 million available across the region, and so our ask is for $4 million. And the county has several projects in Clackamas County that are still ranking pretty high. We're ranked 6th out of 27 on a technical scale. And then within the county, there's been a lot of discussion about what should be our top priorities. And right now, we're holding solid at the second project priority for Clackamas County. The top priority right now, even though it didn't score real well against the Metro data, is the Highway 43 project in West Lynn, which would provide, a boulevard improvement in terms of no new lanes necessarily, but obviously complete boulevard reconstruction. And they've got what they're calling a bike. It's a track. They call it a bike track, I think, and it's essentially a grade-separated multi-use path that would have some separation from the lanes, and intersection improvements, all the kind of things. So that's project number 1. We're project number 2, but still likely to be funded. And then there's a third project, which is in Wilsonville, which is a I-5. It's really a engineering study for more design work, pre-design work, that would be an I-5 bridge crossing between their south interchange, and then there's a there's an overpass there that's not an interchange. I can't think of the name of the road. I think that might be Beckman Road. Anyway, between those two roads, they're proposing some kind of a pathway, bike and pedestrian pathway crossing.
So how much is the Westland asking for? Millions?
3 million.
Or 3 million?
They've already received approval for, I think, 1.1 million through the STIP funding, which was State Improvement Trust Fund. And if you remember, we submitted on Main Street between 10th and 15th, and we didn't get it. But they got their project funded contingent on them getting some of this regional flexible funds. So we're looking really strong. We think we don't think our project's going to fall off the list. We got good public comment. I didn't bring those numbers with me, but my recollection was they opened that up for public comment through their web page, where you could go on and they had an interactive map. And I think we only got 67 comments, and that was high compared to other projects. Although the Milwaukee had a project which is no longer on the list, they got the most positive comments. They got the most comments. Our comments were positive and ranked pretty high, so we did do well in that. It's just, it surprised me that there was, after all the marketing that we did, there was only 67 folks that got online and actually filled out of the form.
Two of them were mine.
Thanks, Bob.
John, on the 10-foot wide sidewalks, is that based on pedestrian counts, or are you just trying to make it wider so you have a greater shy distance away from the traffic? Because that seems, I don't see, I see pedestrian movement on there, but I don't see great amounts of pedestrian counts.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of pedestrian usage along there. Not necessarily walking from Beaver Creek all the way to the community college, but in block segments you see a lot of pedestrian activity. There's also the transit use on Malala Avenue is significant. It's one of the highest segments of street for lift users on TriMet. So lots of assisted folks in either wheelchairs or the little carts that are able to use those, use the transit service there. So surprisingly, there's a lot. Whether the whole thing is going to be 10 foot, we're going to have to piece this together in a way that enhances the treatment. But definitely between Beaver Creek Road and the one for Garden Meadows,
which is by Subway.
Yeah, it's a little bit beyond there.
But closer to 213, I don't see.
Right. So as you get that far, it probably see less traffic, and we may scale that back. I mean, our estimates are based on more kind of specific areas, but we're generally talking about street lighting, street trees, places in front of y'all know where Biscuits is, right? So Biscuits, they were required to do improvements, so we wouldn't redo those. It would be matching a lot of that same kind of improvement. Same thing with in front of Wilco. We wouldn't be redoing any of that. So
I have two questions. One is, what improvements in traffic flow does this generate for the city? And is there any safety improvements? What are you looking for there in terms of getting improvements?
So I think it is mostly about safety, John. We're still looking at a 3-lane section. We do hope to improve access management so that vehicles will be channelized a little bit better to driveways, where right now they've got an expanse of asphalt where it goes from road to parking lot, and you don't necessarily, especially right there by Subway, that's a good example of where we've got that problem. But it's not gonna, other than signal timing and signal interconnects, we won't see more lane capacity.
Can you tease out the fact that if you put in a new set of signals, people will gravitate towards that intersection versus other intersections that aren't signalized and get a better flow that way, traffic, or?
We're not adding, I guess I should say that, we're not adding signals, we're replacing the signals at Claremont and Gaffney.
Okay,
So they've got pre-existing signals. We'll be able to, again, it's mostly about, and really the purpose of this grant is more about pedestrian and bicycle safety than driver and capacity improvements for the driving public.
Well, I think
That's
that
why they
one-
call it active transportation, because the expectation
No,
is
the bikes will be
focused.
separated, right? And then they're not. It's not like a.
We don't, I mean, we're trying to build this within our existing right of way, so we don't have the capacity to separate the bike lanes. I think in some areas, if you notice Malala, and any areas where we can eke out additional, width more than what we need for the driving public, we will try to put in some striped separation like you might see, but that may look a little weird because some places we don't have that option. We're going to have to live within, kind of existing curbs unless we want to try to acquire more.
I mean, well, why not? I mean, why not make those adjustments? And I mean, whatever section needs to be in. I mean, if you're already spending millions of dollars,
Yeah, I
you're
think.
spending $3. You're getting 3, and you're spending.
No, we're spending 4 and we're getting 4.
Yeah, that's $8 million.
Yeah. A lot of it's got to do with, one, whether or not we really want a wider boulevard. That makes it a little harder for pedestrians to cross, and 2, just cost. Acquiring more right away.
To get the decent bike lanes all the way through, and
Yeah, I think we'll get decent bike lanes. I just don't know that we're definitely not going to have grades separated.
no, I'm not asking for grades. I didn't know if you were just going to take the bike lanes and then just make it a multi.
I think for bike improvements, it's going to be a lot about detection of bikes at the signals. It's going to be about striping, where we can put in some kind of a striped divider between the lane and the bike lane. We'll try to do that, which may mean narrowing up those travel lanes a little bit. So all that would be more along the lines of calming traffic, better bike detection, better demarcation of where those bike lanes really are.
Now, I imagine the city would be doing a lot of work themselves. In kind match, is that your $4 million, or you guys have funds to just?
We're likely going to spend pavement maintenance dollars and a little bit of gas taxes and SDCs. And we probably, we'll be managing the project, but this will be a consultant-driven project.
Does the power company get involved with moving power poles? Is that in any of your plans, or, because I know a lot of them are right close to the.
Yeah, so
In fact,
that's
you've
an
got a
interest.
picture of one of those where, I think I saw it on here,
Yeah,
where
you
it
did.
showed the wheelchair difficulty.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're yet to have those conversations, but if we get this grant, we're going to start talking to the power company.
Well,
There's a big cost
They can move.
associated.
They can move. They have to move within the right of way.
Yeah.
So if they could move to the back of the sidewalk, but at that point, you may also think about maybe looking at what would it take to underground those lines.
I'd really like to see sections of them underground.
Yeah, that'd be great.
What do you guys think about this idea? Just curious. I'll poll you on this. This would be a good sense of what the community might think of this. So our franchise does, with PGE, we think, we haven't tested this, maybe you tested it, Henry, but the franchise with PGE says we can require them to underground their facilities. But they have the authority, if we require that, to recoup that cost through an additional fee on their utility bill, on their PGE bill, citywide. So let's just say it's $2 million to do that. They could, over a period of time, add a surcharge on the PGE bill that would recover that cost over some period of time. And to me, that seems, because I struggle a lot with overhead utility lines. We have a lot of them. It's visual clutter. Their poles are in the way, and I mean, I really like that concept, but you know, I'm just curious what you guys think of that.
One,
idea.
I will tell you what the outcome of my various discussions in various agencies have been about this. There's about half of the cost is involved in the actual undergrounding on the right-of-way. The other half of the cost is getting the power from the right-of-way to the buildings, because everybody's drop has to be redone. Everybody's entrance into the buildings has to be redone. And some of those, and there's places where you have to put the underground power vaults, and you don't have the right-of-way to do that. So there's way more to it than just dropping them in the ground.
I agree with that, but I'm thinking of, we're bringing $8 million to the table. Is there a component of the property owners that maybe could cover that cost and see the benefit of improvement? And then, again, the citywide idea of paying a little more on your utility bill to have that accomplished. At least in some of the more problematic areas like Claremont and Gaffney Lane. And so, yeah, interested in other thoughts.
For
I'd
example,
love to see them underground.
City of Beaverton has a program that is moving forward and undergrounding the power lines and communication lines. And I'm actually doing a project right now for them. And it's very similar to this. You have poles and intersections and the ramps, and it's right down on the First and Lombard. And what city is doing is they're actually going to provide the conduits and set the vaults and on city's cost, and then the PGE will pool the conduits and set the transformers on their dime. So they're making it kind of equitable that way.
Yeah.
And the costs are not that. We're talking to the guy. We're going to be doing all directional boring, and so the cost gets significantly lowered when you're doing that, because you're not really trenching, and we're not really buying right away. We're getting easements from the property owners to set the vaults, so it's not as complicated. We're really fortunate that we got everybody on board, and everybody's working, both the utilities and the city, and it's moving forward. They're going to be going in construction next summer.
I would hope that with the size of this project, that if we did get the grant, that we would seriously look at undergrounding these utilities, because coming back and retrofitting it wouldn't be an option probably.
Yeah.
The city of Troutdale has a fairly unique franchise with PGE, and I believe that's who it is. And so what they did is they took, as I understand it, a portion of their charge to the public utility for using the right of way. They take a portion of that money and they save that up, and then they underground everything. They did that with their downtown and 257, a major road that goes by the high school there. So you might get an example of what they've done, because it sounds like if you looked at increasing the fee, and that shows up on the utility bill from, I'm going to pick a number, 4% to 5% to get the money to do it, and you earmark it, that's a benefit to the utility as well once they get it underground. So
Yeah, I think that's what City Beaverton. I think they're collecting exactly those fees from the and they're putting it back into the underground.
I think that's more in line with the vision of our boulevard that the community of Oregon City wants.
Yeah. So it sounds like we're in agreement. Undergrounding would be good. Looking at innovative ways to pay for it would be good.
Because I think that a lot of people in town feel like they're getting feed to death. So, you might get some pushback, from the public.
City for
Especially if they can say, what are you doing in my neighborhood?
Yeah.
I'm
Well-
already underground.
But the city is already collecting fees from, so they could
Yeah, that's-
reappropriate those fees into a program that can pay for sections of of the city. Okay, we're gonna work from here to here this year. That's how much money we have. And then sometimes when you're doing a project and you already have a contractor mobilized, it makes it that much easier because they're already there and you're already digging, you're doing things, and you're going to be paving afterwards, and makes it a lot less expensive.
Of course, you're right. Your right-of-way income fees from PGE are already allocated to some program somewhere, so they would be cut in order to fund this.
That's why I mentioned it as an add-on, but, you know, it's,
Something to look at, I think it's a good idea. It does improve the safety, and it helps with the pedestrians. It just makes everything look much nicer.
Absolutely.
Is there a savings, Joan, to PGE for maintenance, storm-caused damages and things like that when they go underground?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, like, take this neighborhood. We lose power in this neighborhood regularly, and they have to come out and deal with it. I live up in a newer neighborhood up in the hilltop, and I've been there for 10 years. I don't think we've ever lost power there.
And
Not
yours
that I
is
know.
underground?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Shoot, I live up the street and I've lost power twice in 20.
That's it?
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty good. I think you're lucky.
Well, yeah, but I get fed from 3 substations.
I'm underground in Ivory.
Let me get through this, or we're never going to get out of here. We thought we were having a short meeting, right? So
promised
again,
me.
here's the rankings. We're 6 out of 27, which is good. West Lynn's project is ranked number. Oops, sorry, going the wrong way.
Direction.
You see that West Lynn? I think it's number 17. And but because of this funding and kind of community interest, they're asking to bump it up. And then we got there it is. We got 64 comments. That 4.7 was kind of based on what folks thought how high it ranked, and then 95.2% ranked us at that 4 or 5 level. So we did really good in the public comment in terms of scoring. I just thought 64 sounded really low to me, given how much effort we put into trying to get people to log on. It's interesting. I'll just say something about that. When we have these grant applications, they're very competitive, and it's a struggle for us to get folks. We had a good showing. We organized key speakers we had to present in front of the county and all the other cities at the C4 meeting, and so we had a concerted effort to get, like, we had Blaine Meyer, Karen Morey, we had Representative Bob Cochran from the community college, somebody from the business community there. So we got them there, and it was 5 or 6 of them. We set them up with, points that we thought they should make that would be slightly different from one another, and that was really effective. But still, just getting people out to kind of get excited about these. Some communities like Milwaukee, they got a pretty strong Safe Routes to School program, so you got lots of moms and children that show up for these meetings and really present a passion plea for funding, and that sometimes makes a difference. It really does. So,
Well, when it comes to pedestrians and bikes, I mean, maybe next time you think reaching to schools and going through schools and doing outreach there. I mean,
yeah.
to the parents, and you may be able to get more responses that way.
So some decisions that are coming up. It looks like really Metro won't make a final decision until February 1st. So we're kind of going through that decision-making process. County just put together a letter that recommended, again, Highway 43, Oregon City, and then the Wilsonville project. So here's kind of a timeline. These funds that we're competing for are for funding from 2019 to 2021. So it's still a ways out. And in that, but we're hoping, and we're kind of hearing indications that we may be able to start the process a little earlier, and they'll let that go.
Your
So,
JPAC's the important one.
yeah. JPAC is the important one. Wanted to give you.
Can I ask one question
Sure.
on this Malala project? On the first slide, you have a comment there, in a wheelchair, good luck with that. That seems kind of flippant to me, and I think that somebody that actually needs a wheelchair might be a little offended by that. So I'd suggest maybe changing the wording on that a little
Okay.
bit.
We can look at that. Myers Road extension. So this is just giving you a short update. We've continued to work with David Evans and Associates to refine the alignment, and we're doing that mostly because we've also hired a right-of-way acquisition firm by the name of Right-of-Way and Associates to start communicating with the property owners there. There's 4 of them, including the community college, that on property acquisition. So we're looking, at the road section that was agreed to through the Myers Road corridor study, and then looking a little beyond that for construction easements, site distance easements, and those kind of things. So work is still proceeding on that one, slowly but surely. Any questions?
Some of these properties, would they have access to this road, like
Yes.
down the road if they decide to develop and stuff?
Yes. They'd all have nice frontages.
That's going to be a great improvement. That's going to be nice.
Yeah. It'd be great to.
So to get this access, are some of them going to be donating the right of way for the road, or are they all expecting to be?
Well, because we may ask for, this may be another project that pursues grant funding. We're following the federal guidelines, and they can donate it, but that has to be done through the proper guidelines for how right
They
away
have
is
to be
acquired.
offered.
They
fair
have to be
market
offered, market value for that. So, based on these property owners, I'm not sure. I think the community college is going to be favorable in that because they're actually conditioned to do some of this work through their land use approval. But some of the others have taken, I think, more of a stand back approach that we really don't need this roadway right now. It's not it provides benefit, yes, but it's not really as we had planned for our property to develop. So I think we'll see how that plays out.
Could you put an LID in place then?
We could. We'd
Or
need,
that might give you a little leverage in your conversation.
yeah, we need 51% of the property owners or something like that to get the LID. Yeah. So I don't
By
know.
area, that's why the community college help you out then.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we could also, there's a couple things, but we're kind of hoping for the best. It would really do a lot for employment lands and just the backlog of traffic that uses Glen Oak Road. So we've got high hopes for that. Keep moving in that direction. Beaver Creek and Highway 213, the dual left turn lanes, that's a project that we tried to bid this last summer, didn't get much response, or the one response that we did was really high, so we've kind of regrouped on that, and this is just showing how much the kind of the bolder line there that reflects that median that's existing and how much of it's going to come out. So there's still going to be, I don't know if I can actually, there's still going to be a little sliver of an island up here, but you don't see that on your screen, do you?
Or you're still keeping a bit of that?
We're still keeping a little bit, but most of it's going to go away. So our intent is to bid this sometime after the first year, try and get it such that we can get it at least an award by April or March or April, so they can start
Construction
early.
would be like, is this gonna be night work?
Probably
It's already like busy.
busy. Yeah,
Just a little bit.
yeah. So you turn around, that's the little piece that will remain kind of a landscaped island. Everything else goes away.
Oh, wow. It'd be a big improvement.
What was the reason not just taking the whole thing out?
Well, the traffic analysis said we didn't need it, and we've got I don't know. We've got places where there's other medians along Beaver Creek Road. So, to me, it made sense. Bob, I think this was for your benefit. You were asking something about some of the upcoming development in the Park Place area. So I don't have information on all the orange dots, but the three big ones I've just provided a little bit more information on. So this is up on Park Place, and so that main road that's going through there is Holcomb. So again, if you turn around and look at the screen, that's Holcomb School right there. The little market sits right down in here somewhere.
What is the school? Down the hill.
Steve's Market,
Steve's Market's down
right in there.
Yeah.
So, and then this is all Holcomb Boulevard here. So there's quite a bit of acreage out there that's being talked about right now, and I'll give you a little update on each of them. So this is the big one. This is the property that's that has been up for a couple of annexation votes and went down, but with the new annexation law that allows them to come in, they're starting to talk to us. They had a pre-application meeting. We've yet to actually get a submittal, so there's no scheduled meetings yet, Bob, on that. It's really just we know that they're talking, and we expect to see something from them in the not too distant future.
How many lots is there?
I don't know the number.
They
of
haven't
lots.
projected that yet.
Yeah. It's a mix of land use. There's a little commercial up there, a little bit of different residential zoning up there.
They were gonna talk to the planning commission last week and got that forwarded, and,
Yeah, at this point, we get kind of very sketchy information about what they're thinking, and they pay for a pre-application meeting, so staff gathers information and just kind of gives them a rough idea of what kind of conditions they're gonna have to meet, and then usually they look at you with a blank look on their face and come back later with more ideas. So
that's the meeting that I was speaking of the 6th, which the developer is going to be addressing the committee, Park Place Committee, on their intentions of those two annexations.
One thing that I always find interesting about those is, before, lots of times the way the code is written, they go to the neighborhood before they've come really in detail or heard anything from much other than maybe a pre-app from staff. And yet the neighborhood tends to get the impression that that's gospel and the city's already approved it. Depending on the presenter, it can, the developer almost always speaks with authority, and his ideas are guaranteed to be completed. That's never the case. There's usually a fair amount of input, especially on a big one like that. You've got a little subdivision where they're kind of boxed in, and all the road connections are pretty much already, obvious. There's less change, but this one here is going to have, there's lots of creativity that could happen on that development.
This is where the flaw in the system exposes itself.
Well, we've
Because
had,
there's a lot lost in translation.
Yeah, I agree. But I think it's just important for those of you that attend neighborhood meetings to know that, that's usually the beginning of the process, and there's lots of
that's what I've
iterations.
tried to explain to the people that have been coming to our meetings too, is that this is just the beginning. When they get into the development phase is when the public can have the most effect. And but boy, I'll tell you, we're setting records for attendance at our Park Place meetings.
John, is there anything on the schedule that the courts might be looking at this legislation that affects annexation?
They may be. We just had a little phone conference with our city as a part-time lobbyist that kind of keeps an eye on what the legislature's up to, and this annexation was not on his list of topics that he was expecting. Obviously, the legislature is going to change, and maybe it will come up, but right now it's not being discussed.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the courts were getting involved in this. I think there was some sort of rumored petition that they might challenge this in the courts.
Okay. So I want to get through these. I know it's taking longer than I had planned. So Abernathy Landing, that's the one up near the top of the city limits, near the airstrip up at the airstrip.
Mhm.
So
That's the airstrip, right?
yeah. So this is a subdivision, and I can't remember. This one may be the one that's got 92 lots. 98 lots is being proposed. Staff is working on the staff report right now. And
So would that have access off of Barlow and off of Holcomb?
No, just Holcomb.
No, it's got access into that
Yeah.
neighborhood area there.
oh yeah, it does have. Yeah, you're
Couple-
right. You're talking the neighborhood where what I think of as Barlow Crest area.
Yeah.
Barlow, so it'd
Yeah.
go through Barlow Crest,
Yeah.
and
There-
it would go through.
right.
It'd have access there and off
Holcomb.
of Holcomb.
Yes, it would. So anyway, apparently there's a question of whether or not it's require a public meeting or not. But my sense is it'll probably have definitely be at the planning commission. And
So that'll be
then
in the city limits.
third big one is I think this is the 92 lot. Sounds like this has already gone. I'm not as familiar with these. I asked my staff to help me a little bit. So went before the planning commission on November 14th. They asked for a continuance, and I think they're going to regroup and come back. Planning commission meeting is in December, is scheduled for December 12th. They may withdraw their application. And
Is
I'm
this
not
owned
quite
by
sure.
Ceres Farm?
Yes.
John, I have a quick question.
No, this, this is Sears Farm, but the same developer, the same builder is for this development and the other bigger ones south of Holcomb Boulevard. The same builder is,
Icon.
yeah.
So
They're pretty
I,
much developing everything. in the city.
Yeah, he has a lot of land interest.
normally, your subdivisions require that the builder go to and through with the roadways. That familiar term? And so,
That's well, it depends on what you mean by to and through. There's a roadway on this map shown, over here. Someday that's going to go all the way down to Forsyth. I don't know what you mean by to and through, but
well, so for example, using this one, and I'm more interested in the first one. So, as if you were starting at Holcomb and just building to the north of that, and you just dead end the street there. It's to the next available development lot.
yes,
So it's through that.
yes.
Okay. If you go back to the first proposed development area, could you do that on your map there, please?
This one?
Right. If they have several accesses out towards Holcomb, but, in the master plan, it goes down to Redland Road and connects with Holly. And that's probably going to be very expensive because you have a lot of ravines and stuff like that.
Right.
And if that's designed to carry some of the traffic off of Holcomb, but it's too expensive to ever get built, then the reality is they got to put this in, and it's not functioning the way it's designed. So how do you make sure that you have the finances to do the last link up? That's the question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Complicated question. Typically, what they'll want to require is not, maybe pay in lieu or improvements to, in this case, Livesey Road that would then act as a bridge, if you will, between when that new road goes through and the current conditions. And there's usually a fair amount of traffic analysis that goes along with that. But,
with the scattered development along Livesey, it's hard to imagine you'd ever be able to. I don't know what kind of right of way you have there designed to a decent roadway through there.
Yeah, those are good questions, John.
And
I
that's
think
not in the
that'll
city.
come out of that will come out of the land use process.
It would be
That
nice.
Lifesay Road, or that other part of it is not in the city.
It'd be nice to provide a connection to Livesey Road, seeing as how that road gets isolated every time there's a flood, and those people up there can't get in and they're out.
This would definitely have a connection to Livesey. I think the question is between Livesey and down on Redland, and not necessarily along Livesey. You're talking down, like the Park Place concept plan
Yes.
suggests, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's part of the dilemma. It never fails. These developments want to come in at the top of the hill where there's very little infrastructure available to use. And
That's where the view is.
yeah, so that's
That's where the land is.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I mean that
and
we'll have an opportunity to chime in on that for sure.
Imagine
This
that-
particular annexation here, the owner is the builder. He owns all that property there.
he's buying pretty much anything that's available.
You say the owner is the developer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Icon.
Oh,
So then, see, they didn't have to have permission from all the property owners to agree to the annexation because they are the property owner.
okay, all right.
So anyway, go ahead, John. We'll keep interrupting you.
No, that's okay. I had a lot of things to go over with you, and I think this is once I'm done, we're done, right? We don't. So, so we've talked about this alternate mobility standards project. I think it was Laura that was here to talk about it first. So this is about the intersection of Beaver Creek and Highway 213. There's times during certain times during certain days when this intersection reaches capacity. And because of that, we've been working with ODOT. Our transportation system plan suggests that we would do an alternate mobility standards study. So we're kicking that effort off now. I think my recollection is, Henry, you're the TAC representative who's sitting on the alternate mobility study citizen committee. And so we're still putting that together. The plan is for the first meeting to happen in December.
You still have my map?
I do.
That might play into this too,
Yeah.
if only to illustrate that we got a lack of connections out beyond the city.
Yeah, it's sitting behind my door, so when you're ready for it, you come get it. So anyway, just kind of letting you know that process we're trying to pull that together. We're going to go ahead and fund it. The idea is to get through that with, the assumption is we'll get a lot of community recommendations, both from the technical advisory group and the citizen advisory group. And, that'll go mostly through, I think we've got meetings scheduled in February, April, and May and June. The idea is eventually it would get approved by the city with city code changes that would also be approved through the Oregon Transportation Commission. So it's a big deal. It's a big process.
I think it's a great process myself. I think it shows some ambition and, frankly, some courage, to stick your nose out there and say, hey, here we go. Nobody else is making a decision. We're going to make one. We're going to at least make the effort to make one. I think it's great.
So I did hear something. Laura and I were talking, and it sounded like Bob, there was a discussion at the Planning Commission meeting,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and somebody else was representing the Planning Commission. You thought you were representing the TAC, and so right now you're not on this alternate mobility standards, but it sounded like you wanted to be.
Well, I'm from Reno. I don't want to. I think you're going to be on there, all right? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
You're okay with that?
Sure. You
Okay.
bet.
I told her I'd check in on that.
You can be my alternate if you
Oh,
want.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So continuing work on the transportation SDC update. So DKS was here to the commission to talk about our project list and updating some of the estimates for that. We're working with our kind of financial guy, John Ghilarducci, with the FCS group. And so our intent is to amend the list to include all the projects and updated project estimates, and then see what kind of impact that has on the transportation SDC. I think most of you know we've got a lot of feedback on how they feel like our transportation SDC is too high, and at the end of the day, I'm not sure where this is going to land. We're hoping to get a better picture of that from the FCS group sometime before Thanksgiving. But we'll be taking this to the city commission. I'm trying to think, what did she got here? This is just an update on the SDC methodology. There's a reimbursement component, an improvement component. There's a minor component for management, and that results in your SDC. So that's kind of some of the work that both DKS and the FCS group are doing for us. And so December 13th, we plan to have a work session. If you're more interested in that, feel free to watch that or show up to the meeting. We hope to bring it back at the December 20th TAC meeting, but we don't have a December 20th. Well, right now we're talking about not having one, and we wouldn't necessarily have this on the commission, so I need to work through that. But we can do it in January.
What time is the meeting on the 13th?
It's a city commission work session.
7?
I believe it starts at 7 unless they move that forward. Can you look that up for us? Okay. I'm pretty sure it's at 7. And then, we're moving towards some kind of public hearing to get that adopted so that we can have more confidence in our SDC list and our final SDC. 5:30.
5:30.
5:30?
I think this is last but not least, the 12th in Washington. So we've had some, the surveys done for that intersection. So they picked up the existing conditions. The geotechnical work has occurred. PGE, of course, would like to put more poles and lines in the area. So we're trying to talk to them a little bit about why that might not be a good idea. But
Underground.
So that's coming. But anyway, we're hoping to get to a bid date in late spring. Still not exactly sure where the dollars are coming from, but we're going to kind of see how some of our other spending, this was an unplanned project, so see how some of our other spending is gone and see if we can't squeeze this in with the idea that most of the spending would be in the next budget year anyway. So try to get it out early, but build it, and using next year's budget dollars. So it's moving ahead. I don't have estimates yet.
What are the thoughts about that in the wintertime?
Well,
We get a big freeze.
yeah, I mean, it's with or without a signal, it's going to be problematic. That hillside is just so steep. It's a problem. So I don't know that the signal necessarily makes it more dangerous. But yeah, that's a consideration. That's it. I'll just give you a short update. I got a presentation here, but I'm not going to go through it. So Lynn Avenue, I think I mentioned this earlier. It's a struggle, deep trenching with lots of boulders. I'll tell you what. Just bear with me. I can show you a couple of pictures. There you go. How's that one look? So our typical construction looks a little bit more like that, with nice clean trenches and shoring boxes that fit in there where we can lay the pipe. But instead, we're seeing the roadway cave away. We've had some old abandoned utilities that we didn't have mapped, and we've got these monster-sized boulders and with soft soil around them. So we can't even get in there with a rock hammer to break them in the trench to break them off because they just kind of move in that soft soil, and they move places where you don't want them, like into our water line and gas line, things like that. So
You sure you didn't take a picture of my backyard with that one?
Is that what it looks like? Yeah. So this contractor's brought in bigger equipment, and we've been working through that. Tomorrow we're asking for some quite a bit of additional, another $150,000 to help cover some of those additional costs associated with digging. We did some geotechnical work, not a lot, but we did geotechnical work on this, and we didn't come across boulders, but that's the nature of boulders. They kind of end up where you'd be lucky if you hit one with some of your geotechnical work.
From Missoula floods, huh?
Yeah. So So anyway, it's been problematic. That's why we closed the road. Is if you look at the Lynn Avenue trench width picture on your, I guess it would be on your left. You know, the road's caving away, and we're losing more road than we really want. So trying to put bus traffic or even vehicle traffic on one side was just too dangerous. So we chose to close it. And I would say this, that the speeding complaints on Lynn Avenue have pretty much fallen off. I have no more speeding complaints on Lynn Avenue.
Have we run across a solution for our speeding?
Yeah, just
keep
close the road.
Some of the residents up along East Avenue and such seem to think that Lower Fifth Avenue, though, is a nice racetrack now that there's not anybody else using it.
Yeah. So that's it. That's it for me. Just we're behind schedule. We're going to try and get it opened up by Thanksgiving, but that's going to be tough if the weather doesn't cooperate. So we're trying to get through that project, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, but it's been problematic for us.
There was a citizen that came in a few months ago, complained about cracks in homes because of vibrations from TriMet. Does this work in the vicinity of that guy's house?
It is. It's just down the street from there. It's actually, he's a few houses, he's a couple of houses up from Pearl Street. We stop at Pearl, but yeah, I mean, we've heard that. I shared that information with the project manager and asked him to just kind of keep an eye on it and take pictures of foundations and retaining walls, those kind of things. But I really don't think that's what's going on. I think there's the perception of that. If you stand next to a TriMet bus when it goes by, you know, both the wind and it just feels like things are moving. But you know, I don't think that's what's going on. Unless there's a huge boulder there and we're hitting it with our.
Okay, the next, item 6 is communications. I think you all have a copy of the 2017 tax schedule, so we're honed in on that. Does anybody have any future agenda items that they'd like to consider?
Bylaws.
Bylaws, yep.
Let me just get that. I hate to see the TAC get wrapped around the axles on like some of the other committees have gotten with bylaws. So is it just this section that we want to take on, or you want to open up the whole?
Just this section.
Okay. And I would like to talk to the city recorder to figure out, this must be, there must have, I mean, this, I think these bylaws are similar in this particular area as the others, so let's figure out what maybe has worked or not worked for them. So.
Anybody have anything else?
On the report, John's report, number 3 was a fuel tax ballot measure. We all know how that came out, but last January, Henry brought up like a 2-cent Oregon City gas tax. I never saw anything on it on the agenda. I don't know if you still be wanting to pursue that or not.
Well, I think we should pursue it, given us how the alternative seems to have fallen out.
So the fuel tax, actually there's a couple items here that I didn't have slides for. The fuel tax, yeah, it went down pretty commanding way. We did hear from Commissioner Savas at the last C4 meeting that you know, they think they need to kind of regroup and take another run at it. Local gas taxes for Oregon City would be, with nobody else around us, would you know, we're a small enough jurisdiction where I'm not sure how great that would be for us. I think a county-wide gas tax is the way to do it. I mean, that's the way Washington County does it. That's the way Multnomah County does it. But
Certainly preferable, but I'd hate to go out on there and say, you know, well, we didn't even look at it to see that it wouldn't work.
we did look at it, and I think maybe the best way to deal with this, and I thought that's what we did last time, but we'll bring it again, was when we adopted the pavement maintenance utility fee, we had the our financial consultant, FCS Group, they wrote a white paper on the different mechanisms for raising funds. We landed on the pavement maintenance utility fund, but I remember local gas tax being on there. So if we could pull that and include it with your packet next time, would that be helpful?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
At least a start toward trying to figure out how to deal with it.
If we were at Troutdale, I'd say go for it, but,
Sandy, you know, has been
yeah, but they got a
successful.
lot of through traffic.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't have that same through traffic
But-
that those communities have, and that's other people's money that you're bringing into your
Also, the
community.
last gas stop for a long way, so people tend to
Yeah.
stop there. Where
Or Troutdale, they get a ton of traffic that's not their residents.
But with the dropping down and the decrease in number of stations now that are around, it's starting to be that you really have to go out of your way to avoid getting gas if you don't want to go someplace.
Well, I think the county commission's next step probably will be the vehicle registration fee. They don't have to have a vote on that, I don't think.
no, they don't. And I got this secondhand through my staff was that they didn't think, based on this vote, that it was as easy as just deciding to go with the vehicle registration fee. But I think there's plenty of people that would agree that you don't have to go to a vote. You need a funding source. That's one mechanism.
Well, you get the new chair now. And
Yeah, new chair
the
made.
board is changing, so
I mean, it's crazy to me, but Washington County, they just adopted $30 a year vehicle registration fee, no vote. They just took I mean, they're. I'll
And they're
call
building
it
infrastructure.
leadership. I don't know. They enacted that, and they've done. They've taken other aggressive moves like that. So the other one, I put it on the list, the Drive Safe Oregon City campaign. I'm just concerned that that's not going anywhere, and I don't know. I've not seen a single garbage can with.
How about my
stickers on
house?
it. Maybe in Park Place. I seldom get over there, so I know Bob's done a bunch of stuff. But have you
We
guys
still
seen
have
him
a
in
long
other?
ways to go.
There's some in McLaughlin, I've seen them.
I've got one on my trash can.
I'd like to see him on High Street, Center Street, some of those places where we've heard so many complaints and they're not there. So I'm not sure if that's just reluctance to want to participate in what's.
Maybe I'll start going to some neighborhood meetings and try to find out what's going
Well,
on.
unfortunately, we kind of handed out the stickers. I don't know what the status of those is, but it might be worth a call to Amy. I think it would be good for you to call Amy. She's been dealing with shoulder surgery, so she's kind of been out of it. But
Oh.
try to figure out how to reach out to the neighborhood chairs with let's get them back. If they're not going to distribute them, let's get them back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At South End Neighborhood Association, they had a stack of them at their meeting in the park in August, and there were a couple of people that took them, but there were only 15 people there.
Yeah.
So I don't know how.
And the idea was to get them on the arterials or collectors so that they weren't in a cul-de-sac area where it's really not speeding is a problem.
What was the street we did, Nick and I? Front?
front, yeah.
So
Yeah, you go down front, man, there it is, bang, bang, bang.
Yeah,
This
and
guy's
so,
got a
yeah,
bang
two of
up
us
job.
went and we just did it in an hour, and if people weren't there, we put them on the container. Everybody we talked to thought it was a great idea. So if you want to see one street that's gone from Malala.
What
excuse me,
what day is garbage pickup?
Tuesday.
I just want to go do it so I can get some pictures of them.
Sure, okay, Tuesday from Holcomb all the way past the Park Place Old School.
And on Holcomb, from Swan east, would be east, uphill. There are quite a few in that section.
All right. Well, that's great work. Good for that. I'm glad that's working.
You know, there was no objection from folks. And like I said, we put them on the containers if nobody was there, because we went on a Tuesday afternoon when it was garbage day, so you can put them on.
Yep.
if nobody was there.
Just gotta get the people with enough gumption to go out there and do it, for
Hey,
crying out
and you,
loud.
and you put the backing in the garbage can?
Now, we collected that and took it back and recycled it.
Yeah, my front passenger seat when I did it was pretty messy with all those leftover things. But it was kind of fun. Okay, anybody else have anything for future agenda items? At that, this meeting is adjourned.